Capitals are rarely accidental. They're, intentional creations designed to be seen and understood. Across history, rulers have built new cities not just as places to live, but as powerful statements. These urban centers are carefully planned to project authority and to solidify a particular vision of the world. They become stages where the theater of power is performed for all to witness. Looking at the ancient world, we find some truly remarkable examples of this phenomenon. The stone terraces of Persepolis in Persia, the desert city of Akhetaten in Egypt, and the great earthen mounds of Cahokia in North America were all purpose-built capitals. Each one tells a unique story about how leadership can be expressed through the very ground people walk on and the structures that dominate their skyline. These cities were not simply administrative hubs. They were living symbols, each element meticulously crafted to reinforce a message of control and divine right. The choice of location, the layout of the streets, and the scale of the public buildings were all part of a deliberate strategy. Leaders understood that the environment in which people live shapes their thoughts and their loyalties. By creating an overwhelming and ordered landscape, a ruler could make their power feel natural, inevitable, and permanent. The citizens or subjects living within these grand designs were constantly reminded of their place in the social hierarchy. The capital itself became a primary tool for governing, communicating the strength and stability of the regime without the constant need for force. The stories of Persepolis, Akhetaten, and Cahokia are particularly compelling because they represent different approaches to the same fundamental goal. One used the grandeur of stone and intricate carvings to celebrate a vast multicultural empire. Another rose from the empty desert sands, dedicated to a revolutionary religious idea and a single divine pharaoh. The third used the very earth itself, shaped into enormous mounds, to organize society and command a sprawling territory. Each capital was a unique solution to the universal challenge of making power visible and convincing. They show us how different cultures have used landscape and architecture to answer the question of who is in charge and why. Through the ruins of these once mighty centers, we can trace the ambitions of their creators. The effort required to build them was immense, involving the mobilization of thousands of laborers and vast resources. This investment was not just for practical purposes. It was a performance of capability. The ability to raise a mountain of stone or earth was, in itself, a demonstration of supreme authority. These cities were monuments to the power of an idea, whether it was the unity of a diverse empire, the worship of a new god, or the cosmic order of a chiefdom. They stand today as silent testaments to the enduring human impulse to shape the world in the image of power. Powerful leaders have always understood that architecture is, in a way, a form of communication. It speaks a language of permanence, stability, and scale that can be more persuasive than words alone. When a ruler builds on a monumental scale, they're doing more than just providing shelter or a place for administration. They're creating a physical manifestation of their authority, making their abstract power tangible and visible to everyone. A grand palace or a towering temple can make a leader's reign seem destined and unshakable. The sheer size of such structures impresses upon the observer a sense of their own smallness in comparison to the state and its ruler, fostering a natural sense of awe and compliance. Elevation is one of the simplest and most effective tools in the architectural language of power. By placing palaces, temples, or ceremonial platforms on high ground, leaders physically and symbolically raise themselves above their subjects. Looking up at a ruler or a sacred building reinforces a social hierarchy. This was not just for a better view, it was a calculated psychological device. Ceremony is also deeply connected to this use of space. Processional ways, grand staircases, and large open plazas are not just for moving crowds. They are designed to choreograph human movement, turning state rituals into impressive spectacles that embed the leader's importance in the public's memory and experience. Urban planning on a city-wide scale is another method for expressing control. A chaotic, organically grown city speaks of a different kind of society than one laid out on a strict grid. An ordered city with straight, wide avenues and a clear focal point, like a palace or temple complex, reflects an ordered and controlled society. This rational layout suggests that the ruler's authority extends to every corner of the capital, bringing order out of chaos just as they bring order to the state. The city plan becomes a map of power, guiding inhabitants and visitors alike through a landscape that continually reinforces the central authority's vision. It tells people where to look and what is most important. Ultimately, these architectural strategies work together to build legitimacy. A new dynasty or a leader with a contested claim to power can use a massive building project to solidify their position. By creating a new impressive capital, they create a new reality. The immense effort and resources poured into its construction demonstrate the leader's capacity to command and organize. The resulting city stands as enduring evidence of their greatness, a legacy in stone or earth that can outlast memory and myth. The buildings themselves become part of the state's identity, and to question the ruler becomes akin to questioning the very existence of the magnificent city around them. Persepolis was not an ordinary city. Constructed by the Achaemenid kings of Persia, beginning around 515 BCE, it was a grand ceremonial capital. Its purpose was to be a stage for the empire's majesty. It was built upon a massive stone terrace, partly carved out of a mountainside and partly built up from the plain below. This enormous platform, covering over 125,000 square meters, instantly elevated the entire complex, separating the world of the king from the world of ordinary people. To approach Persepolis was to witness a man-made mountain crowned with palaces and halls, a clear statement of the empire's power to reshape the natural world itself to suit its purpose. This was a place for ritual, not for common residents. The design of Persepolis was focused on processions and audiences. Visitors would ascend the grand western staircase, a monumental double stairway with shallow steps. These steps were so wide and gentle that nobles on horseback could supposedly ride up them. This was a carefully managed experience, designed to build anticipation and impress the visitor with the scale and deliberation of the empire. As one ascended, the world of the plain fell away, and one entered the exclusive realm of the great king. The architecture controlled the journey, guiding ambassadors and tribute bearers through a sequence of gates and halls that emphasized the king's supreme and remote authority. Once upon the terrace, the visitor would be surrounded by towering columns and vast halls, such as the Akhetaten, or audience hall. Here, the king would receive delegations from the many nations under his rule. The sheer verticality of the columns, some reaching 20 meters into the sky, was designed to inspire awe. The scale made the individual feel small and insignificant in the presence of the empire's might. The entire complex was a carefully constructed environment meant to overwhelm the senses and communicate a message of absolute power without a single word needing to be spoken. It was a place where the political order of the Achaemenid Empire was made real and undeniable. The symbolism of Persepolis was one of unity through imperial control. It was not just a Persian capital, but an imperial one, intended to represent all the subject peoples. This was displayed for all to see in the intricate relief carvings that decorated its stairways and walls. The planners of this great complex thought carefully about every detail. The layout of the buildings, the height of the platform, and the journey required to reach the king were all part of a larger narrative. This narrative was about an empire so vast and powerful that it could bring together people from all corners of the known world, not as equals, but as subjects paying homage to a single, all-powerful ruler. The relief carvings of Persepolis are among the most remarkable political documents ever created in stone. They are not scenes of brutal conquest or violent battles. Instead, they depict a vision of a peaceful, well-ordered empire, brought together under the benevolent guidance of the Achaemenid king. The most famous of these are found on the staircases of the Apadana. Here, in meticulous detail, are carved long processions of figures representing the 23 subject nations of the empire. Each delegation is led by a Persian or Median usher who holds the hand of the lead delegate in a gesture of friendship and guidance, not coercion. This was a sophisticated piece of political propaganda. The artists took great care to distinguish each group. The delegates are shown wearing their native clothing and bringing gifts characteristic of their homelands. One can identify Scythians with their pointed hats, Ethiopians bringing an elephant tusk, and Ionians carrying balls of wool. This imagery served a dual purpose. On one hand, it celebrated the diversity of the empire, showing that the king respected the different cultures under his dominion. On the other hand, it clearly displayed their subordinate status. They are all shown walking in the same direction, ascending towards the king, to offer their tribute and their loyalty. The message was clear: all peoples have a place within the empire, and that place is to serve the king. The repetition and rhythm of the carvings create a powerful effect. The long lines of figures marching in serene order suggest a world that is stable, predictable, and entirely under control. There is no hint of rebellion or dissatisfaction. The empire, as depicted at Persepolis, is a harmonious system where every part functions for the good of the whole, with the king at its center. This was the ideal of Achaemenid rule, presented as an accomplished fact. For any foreign ambassador or local noble viewing these reliefs, the takeaway would be the immense reach and organizational power of an empire that could command the loyalty and wealth of so many different peoples from so far away. These stone reliefs were integral to the ceremonial function of Persepolis. As real delegations arrived for the New Year's festival, they would see themselves immortalized in the carvings. They would walk past stone versions of their own people, locked forever in an act of giving tribute. This would have a profound psychological effect, reinforcing the timeless and unchanging nature of their relationship with the Persian throne. The architecture and its decoration worked together to create an experience that was both personally relevant and politically overwhelming. The power of the king was not just asserted, it was woven into the very fabric of this magnificent ceremonial center for all time. In the 14th century BCE, the pharaoh Akhetaten made a decision that was, well, radical and unprecedented in Egyptian history. He abandoned the traditional gods of Egypt and decreed that his people should worship only one deity, the Aten, represented as the disk of the sun. To accompany this religious revolution, he also abandoned the ancient capital of Thebes. He chose a site in the empty desert of Middle Egypt, a virgin landscape untouched by the worship of the old gods. Here he would build a new capital city from scratch. He called it Akhetaten, meaning horizon of the Aten. This act of moving the capital was a definitive break with the past and a powerful statement of his new vision. The construction of Akhetaten was honestly, astonishingly rapid. Within just a few years, a massive city rose from the sands, stretching for miles along the eastern bank of the Nile. This was not a slow, organic growth. It was a centrally planned and ruthlessly executed project. The city's location was itself symbolic. It was set within a large bay of cliffs, which formed a natural amphitheatre. The rising sun would emerge from a break in the eastern cliffs, appearing to match the hieroglyph for horizon. The city was thus physically aligned with the cosmology of the new religion. Akhetaten claimed the site had been chosen for him by the Aten itself, giving his new capital a divine mandate that superseded all previous traditions. Akhetaten was designed to be the center of the universe for the new faith. It was the only place where the Aten was to be properly worshipped, and Akhenaten and his queen, Nefertiti, were the sole mediators between the god and humanity. The city's layout reflected this new, centralized ideology. A long straight road, known today as the Royal Road, ran parallel to the Nile, connecting the city's most important buildings. This main artery served as a processional way for the royal family, who would ride in chariots from their palace to the Great Aten Temple. This daily journey was a public ritual, allowing the city's inhabitants to witness their divine king and his connection to the sun god. The speed with which the city was built, and its stark departure from established norms, demonstrates the absolute power Akhenaten wielded. He was able to command the resources of the entire kingdom to realize his personal vision. Moving the capital was a political and religious masterstroke. It removed the court from the influence of the powerful and wealthy priesthood of Amun-Ra in Thebes, and created a new center of gravity for the Egyptian state. Akhetaten was more than a city. It was the physical embodiment of a revolution, a capital designed for a single god and a single divinely inspired king. Its existence was a constant declaration of the pharaoh's unique authority. The urban plan of Akhetaten was a direct reflection of Akhenaten's new religion. At the heart of the city lay the great temple of the Aten. Unlike the dark, mysterious temples of the old gods, this temple was open to the sky. It consisted of a series of vast, unroofed courts filled with thousands of offering tables. This design allowed the rays of the sun, the physical manifestation of the Aten, to flood the entire space. The architecture itself was an act of worship, removing all barriers between the god and its temple. This radical openness was a visual representation of Akhenaten's new theology, which rejected hidden idols and complex mythologies in favor of the direct, life-giving power of sunlight. The city was zoned with a clear sense of order. The central district contained the great temples, the main royal palace, and administrative buildings. This was the sacred and political core, the engine of the new regime. To the north and south of this central area were the residential suburbs, where the officials, priests, and artisans who served the king lived. Even the housing shows signs of planning. with large villas for the elite and more modest, grid-like neighborhoods for the workers. This organization created a city that was functional and hierarchical, with everyone's position in society reflected in their proximity to the central royal and religious structures. The city was a microcosm of the new social order Akhetaten envisioned. Visual dominance was key to the city's effect. From almost anywhere in Akhetaten, one could see the towering pylons of the great temple or the grand facades of the palaces. More importantly, boundary stelae, massive inscriptions carved into the cliffs surrounding the city, demarcated the sacred territory dedicated to the Aten. These inscriptions declared the king's intentions and the eternal nature of his foundation. They were permanent markers that defined the city's limits and claimed the entire landscape for the new god. For an inhabitant of Akhetaten, the physical world was a constant reminder of the pharaoh's decree. The horizon, the temples, and the very land were all part of a single, cohesive religious statement. However, the city's existence was entirely dependent on its founder. Akhetaten was a top-down creation, an expression of one man's will. Its rise was meteoric, but its fall would be just as swift. After Akhenaten's death, his religious revolution was rejected. His successors, including Tutankhamun, restored the old gods and abandoned Akhetaten, moving the court back to Thebes. The city was systematically dismantled, its stones reused for other projects, and its memory erased from official records. Its rapid decline shows how capitals built on the vision of a single charismatic leader are vulnerable. When the leader disappears, the political and ideological foundations of the city can crumble with them. On the fertile floodplains of the Mississippi River, near modern-day St. Louis, a great city once stood. This was Cahokia, the largest and most influential urban center of the Mississippian culture. Flourishing from about 1050 to 1350 CE, it was a city built not of stone, but of earth. Its monumental features were enormous earthen mounds, constructed by hand over generations. At its peak, the city covered nearly 6 square miles and was home to thousands of people, with many more living in surrounding farming villages. Cahokia was a capital of immense scale and complexity, its power demonstrated through its ability to organize labor and reshape the landscape on a grand scale. The heart of the city was a carefully planned core. Over 120 mounds of various sizes and functions were built, but the most significant was Monk's Mound. This colossal structure remains the largest prehistoric earthwork in the Americas. It rises in 4 terraces to a height of about 30 meters, and its base covers over 14 acres, larger than that of the Great Pyramid of Giza. On its summit once stood a large wooden building, likely the residence of the paramount chief or a sacred temple. From this elevated position, the ruler would have had a commanding view of the entire city and the surrounding landscape, a potent symbol of their central and superior status. Surrounding Monk's Mound was a large, flat, open space known as the Grand Plaza. This 40-acre area was deliberately leveled and engineered, a remarkable feat of landscape architecture. The plaza served as a public stage for ceremonies, games, and political gatherings. It was the civic and social heart of the city, a place where the community could be brought together under the watchful eye of the chief on Monk's Mound. The city's layout, with the massive mound overlooking the central plaza, created a powerful visual focus. This arrangement reinforced the social hierarchy and the chief's role as the political and religious leader of the community, connecting the people on the plaza to the authority enthroned high above. Cahokia was also organized cosmologically. The city was aligned with cardinal directions, and archaeologists have discovered evidence of large wooden post circles, nicknamed wood henges. These circles likely functioned as astronomical observatories, tracking the solstices and equinoxes. This suggests that the rulers of Cahokia claimed a special connection to the cosmos, their authority legitimized by their ability to understand and predict celestial events. By aligning their city with the movements of the sun, they were integrating their political power into the very order of the universe. The entire city was a statement that the leadership of Cahokia was natural, divinely sanctioned, and as predictable as the changing seasons. The power of Cahokia's rulers was expressed through a masterful use of urban organization. The city was not a random collection of mounds and houses. It was a planned environment that separated the sacred from the profane and the elite from the commoner. Around the central precinct containing Monk's Mound and the Grand Plaza, the Cahokians constructed a formidable 2-mile-long defensive palisade made of wooden logs. This wall, rebuilt several times, enclosed the most important ceremonial and political spaces. It served not only as a defensive barrier, but also as a social one, creating an exclusive inner sanctum accessible only to the elite, further emphasizing their special status. The mounds themselves conveyed a clear hierarchy. Monk's Mound was the largest and most important, the undisputed center of power. Other large, flat-topped mounds, likely platforms for the homes of lesser elites or for mortuary temples, were strategically placed around the Grand Plaza. Smaller, conical or ridgetop mounds were often used for the burial of important individuals, marking them as significant even in death. The size and location of one's home, or one's final resting place, was directly related to one's social standing. The entire landscape of Cahokia was a map of its society, with power and prestige visibly represented by elevation and proximity to the city's sacred center. This architectural language had a profound effect on the people who lived in and around the city. For a farmer living in an outlying village, a visit to Cahokia would have been an overwhelming experience. They would have been confronted by the massive palisade, the vast, teeming plaza, and the sight of Monk's Mound rising like a mountain from the flat river plain. The sheer scale of the construction would have served as undeniable proof of the chief's ability to command labor and resources. The ceremonies performed on the plaza and the site of the leader, high atop the mound, would reinforce the idea that their power was legitimate and their place in the social order was fixed. The symbols of power at Cahokia were tied to the earth and the sky. The mounds connected the leadership to the land, while the wood hedges linked them to the cosmos. This created a powerful ideology, where the chief was the critical link between the earthly and celestial realms. Their authority was not just political, it was spiritual. They were responsible for maintaining the balance of the world, ensuring successful harvests and mediating with the gods. The city of Cahokia was the ultimate expression of this belief system, a human-built landscape that mirrored the structure of the universe itself and placed the chief firmly at its center. Just as capitals are intentionally built, they are also intentionally, or sometimes unintentionally, abandoned. The decline of these great centers of power is often as instructive as their rise. For Persepolis, the end came with a change in political power. The Achaemenid Empire was conquered by Alexander the Great, and in 330 BCE, the ceremonial complex was burned. While the exact reason for its destruction is debated, its fate was sealed by the fall of the dynasty that built it. A new regime had no use for a capital that so perfectly symbolized the greatness of its predecessor. The power that Persepolis represented had vanished, and so its function as a living capital ceased, leaving it to become a magnificent ruin. The decline of Akhetaten was a direct result of its revolutionary purpose. The city was the product of one man's singular vision, and it could not survive him. After Akhenaten's death, the political and religious establishment of Egypt moved swiftly to undo his revolution. The old gods were restored, and the court abandoned the desert capital to return to the traditional centers of power like Thebes and Memphis. Akhetaten was actively dismantled, its name and its king erased from history. Its fall demonstrates the fragility of power based on a radical ideology that fails to outlive its creator. Without the pharaoh's authority to sustain it, the city lost its reason for being and quickly faded back into the desert sands. The abandonment of Cahokia was a more gradual process, and its causes are less clear, likely involving a combination of factors. Environmental stress may have played a significant role. The large population may have overhunted, deforested the surrounding area for fuel and construction, and exhausted the soil. There is also evidence of prolonged droughts and floods around the time of its decline. These environmental pressures could have led to social and political instability, undermining the authority of the chiefs who were believed to guarantee prosperity. As the rulers failed to provide for their people, their legitimacy would have eroded, and the population slowly dispersed, leaving the great mounds behind. These three stories reveal a fundamental truth about purpose-built capitals. Their existence is tied directly to the specific power structure they were designed to represent. When that power structure shifts, through conquest, ideological backlash, or slow internal collapse, the capital loses its meaning. The monumental architecture remains, but it becomes a relic of a bygone era rather than a vibrant center of authority. Persepolis, Akhetaten, and Cahokia now stand as silent monuments, their stones and earth still speaking of the immense ambitions of their builders. They remind us that while power can be expressed in enduring materials, power itself is often transient. Subscribe to Eternal Echoes for more ancient mysteries.